Welcome everybody. We're going to talk about really important a series of videos about Power BI. So let's get started. So Power BI uses measures and KPI cards. This is important for executive reporting. Lots of features here. So let's take a look at how these work. So measure is calculated to live in the current filter context per card or bar. So think of a measure of this right here, this measure on the side. If we go to the data and we click financials, we can see the key measures. And we can see the segment measure is very key here. So this measure right here is the one that's being utilized, and it's being utilized within our key measures column. So when we click on this stuff, we can see different things. So we see that the segment is here, and we can see that additionally, we have some key measures that are being utilized, such as total sales. So some total sales just exists within this little area right here. And that's what's so key about this is a lot of this stuff can seem very hard and measures just exist there. So a column is something you don't want to always use, but a column is a calculated once per row stored using measures. We don't always use columns for a lot of different reasons. So I try to stay away from columns because they're not the best thing to use. Some X and things that are functions that use the columns, but we're not into those as much. Another thing you also want to do, cards are perfect for, your KPIs and things that you're trying to make here. So we can see different stuff here. So these KPIs, you see how they attach to a measure. And there's a visualization over here. So we click here. We're using this card measure right here. And that just gives you that nice card that you can use for those KPIs. And we can see on the side over here, if we click this build a visual, we have total sales in this card right down here. And then if we go over here, we can see how you can kind of visualize a card and make it look nice and do some different things. So under our add data to visual, we can see that. Additionally, we can see these different cards can have different KPIs. So there's our formula right there, some financial profit. It doesn't have a filter on it. It's not using what's called a calculate function. That's for you to learn later on. But these things are also really important here. Additionally, we have a profit margin right here, and we can see it. How's profit margin? You divide total profit by total sales, you get that. So then we also have a nice little dashboard here, total units sold. So summing the financials table under units sold. So a good thing is you can see that it's coming from the financials table and it's the units sold column that you're summing. So that's one thing that can take a while to figure out in syntax, and just know it's the table, then the column. Okay, so let's get a little deeper here. You see these different things. You can also click on these, and those are going to auto sort in Power BI. If you hit Control, you can sort by multiple ones. So we're going to go out here, and that's just a great way to kind of update things. You want to use the divide. I kind of went over this before, but divide's really important. So if we take a look at this measure here, we can take a deeper look. You can see divide it is uses. So why use divide? It handles nulls basically. Is your big thing here. You're able to use those null values. So we're doing divide total profit by total sales. Just an easier way to kind of do that. Now when we jump right over here, we can see set format currency percent, the whole number on measure tools. So why would you do that? So just to take up less space. So if you have these, a lot of times you don't want these long digits. You don't want to go to dollar amounts. You want stuff to be impactful very quickly. So these are just like numbers we have to hit, 119 million sales, things like that. And you can go and format this, but you can also format within the actual visual. We don't do that here. So we're formatting this within here. So we can see our values, and we're using auto display units. So like if we wanted to go thousands, we could, but we don't want to do that. So that's how you can go in there and change those values. It does default to auto, so just be aware of that. You could give it maybe like a 2% if you wanted to do something like that, but I think most people would want the 119. So I think you can go into this display unit under visual. So first you'd go over here to your format your visual measure, your visual tab. and then you have this call out value right here. One thing I'll also mention, if you ever need to format your pane, you hit expand all, you can see all the settings using those 3 dots on the right there. And that's kind of the main things here, is kind of the best practices, what you need to know, measures, columns, and how those work. I think the main thing is you don't want to use columns too much. We're not going to go too deep into that. Measures are pretty much what you want to use because they exist within the visual and they're very quick. So columns are more utilized when you have to do aggregations and you have to grab those columns kind of behind the scenes, or you're not pulling that data in from like Power Query or SQL databases. So that's how you do measures and cards. Make sure to hit that like button, guys, if this was helpful for you. It really does help out. And I'll see you guys in the next video of this series.